Hello and welcome to episode 156 of my podcast all about knitting and crochet and my yarn shop here in Wiesbaden, Germany. I'm Kiko and today is September 5th, 2022. Today I'm wearing a very special shawl that I knit out of, I think it was some Cashsilk, haze, glamour, I don't know, sparkle something. And I knit and designed the shawl for my sister's silver wedding. So it was her 25th wedding anniversary, and I bought this color yarn for myself and silver gray in the same yarn for her. And then we both chose patterns out of this book, The Magic of Shetland Lace Knitting. So you can either knit the patterns that are in the book, or you can just pick one of the you can knit one of the projects that are in the book, or you can choose so these are some of the projects, but you can just choose patterns and then design your own shawl or whatever you're knitting. And so we both picked a pattern for the main body of the shawl that was slightly different. So her shawl looks different than mine. And this is the pattern I chose for the edge. It's a bit hard to show. And then I put beads just in the outside stitch of these zigzags. And I put beads in the first 3 pattern repeats, I think. They are mostly invisible because, again, I chose beads that have the same color as the yarn. But if you look very closely, and I put beads in the cast on and bind off. So they're really hard to see, but you can feel them. Sometimes they sparkle. And the shawl ended up being really long. If I had known that the yarn would run so far, I would probably have made it a bit wider. But I'm still happy with the way the shawl looks now. And yeah, so this is the shawl I'm wearing. And the pullover I'm wearing is, that was a yarn that, I think it's a Rico yarn, but we sold it back at Wollerödel where I used to work. And this is just a very simple raglan V-neck pullover that I sort of made up. The numbers are on the pattern page if you can read German. And I remember we got the yarn without the labels, so it wasn't yarn that we could sell, but it was basically sent to us so we could start knitting with it and working with it and get to know it. And I had this color, and I had a similar color that was a bit darker, and my plan was to make a twin set. So this was supposed to be the t-shirt, and then I wanted to do a cardigan in the other color, and I never did. And after I don't know how many years, I gave the other color away to somebody who actually wanted to knit with it. Yeah, but I think the t-shirt is a bit short, but with a skirt like this, I think it looks okay. And it's a nice top to be wearing in this warm summer weather. So that's what I'm wearing. Then on to the video proper. Today's going to be a bit different because I have 3 finished objects, which is quite a lot, but I also have 3 new cast-ons, which is a lot of fun. But I have 4 projects that I showed you last week that I did not touch in the last week. So things are a bit different. I will show you the finished objects in the order that I finished them, not in the order that I started them. So the first thing I finished is the theatre slipover that I was commissioned to knit for a German theatre. They want to use it for one of their plays as a costume, part of their costume. And the person who asked me to knit this is going to pick it up this week. So I had to finish it in time for today to show you. Yeah, it's not my favorite colors, but it was fun knitting it. It's fun with the different colors coming together here. I slightly changed the pattern, just very little changes. So I knit fewer rounds on the ribbings up here, and so the shoulder seams I Kitchener stitch So there's no real seam up here, but I think these are small things that nobody's going to notice. And I kept the overall look from the pattern the way it was in the magazine, so it should be what they hope for. And it was quite fun to be able to use the yarn without having to keep it afterwards, if that makes sense. So that was the first thing I finished. Really happy to be done and to be done in time, so I know they can get it and use it. And then the second project that I finished is the biggest finished object for today, and that's the blanket. The dinosaur blanket is done. So I finished crocheting around those 3 rounds that I crocheted afterwards. So this one is one of the special corners because I wasn't quite sure how to get from here to there. But I think it's fun, it's okay. The other corners look like this, or 2 of the corners look like this. Maybe even every corner looks different. Let's check. So this is one of the, oh, this has a blue stripe here. This one has a blue, dark blue stripe here. And then the last corner, oh, this is the only corner that doesn't have a stripe of any sort. So with this corner, I was just crocheting around. So every corner is different. I like that. So that's fun. And now I'll try to show you the whole blanket. I washed and blocked it. At first, I blocked it fairly aggressively because the yarn was very willing to grow. But then I thought, no, I don't want to pull it out of shape. So that's me again with the dinosaur body. So I think I left it for about an hour and then I pulled all the pins out again. I just left the blocking wires in so that it would lie straight. But next morning after it dried, it had shrunk back a little bit, but it's still bigger than I thought it would be. So I'm really pleased with the size. I think for a 6-year-old boy, this blanket is really plenty big, so he can hide completely underneath the blanket, and now when winter comes, he can cover up in it. And yeah, I really hope he'll like it. I'm pretty sure he'll like it, and I look forward to giving it to him as soon as possible. So this is the back side with the colorful dinosaur. I also like this side a lot. So I don't think this is a proper back and front where you will try to have the front towards you at all times. I think it's as much fun to be looking at this side of the blanket. And and also the edge looks really different, front and back. How do I show you? Like this. So we have these straight lines on the front and we have these broken lines on the back. I think it's really funny. And I'm really looking forward to making the next thing with this technique. I really enjoyed crocheting this. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So that was finished object number 2, and then finished object number 3 is tiny in comparison, and it's the little baby socks. So this is officially the last pair of 10-gram socks that I am knitting for now. So I will change the project page to finished, and officially the knit along will be over, but I never close the discussion threads in the group, so you can still add pictures, ask questions, show colors, whatever you like to do. Yeah, so happy with those little socks. So these were my 3 finished objects, and because I concentrated on those so much, I think that's one of the reasons I didn't get to knit. I did not knit on the Gnome pullover. I didn't continue on the vest, the like white and beige vest that I'm knitting out of the Coco Knits book. I did not knit on the High Sierra Shawl, and also not on the Chevrione shawl that I showed for the first time in ages last week. But still, there was just too much to finish and too many new things to start. I just felt like casting on all the projects last week. But On to works in progress. I'll start with the socks. So last week I had started those chevron pattern rainforest socks out of the Opal magazine. By the way, I got a lot of questions, especially on the German video, about the magazine. This is what it looks like. If you are in Germany, you should be able to buy it wherever you can get knitting and crochet magazines, and you can also order it from Opal themselves. So they have their website is sockenwolle.de, and you can order their yarn, and you can also order the magazine. I did change the pattern a bit. I think on this picture you can't really tell, but the toe and the heel are just in the dark color, but I just felt like playing around a little, so I knitted a few stripes without the pattern before the heel starts, because the heel looked so tiny in the picture. And then I did the first half of the heel in the colorful yarn, and then I did the second part of the heel with the dark yarn, and then I did 2 more stripes, and then I went back to knitting in pattern, and that's as per pattern. So in the pattern they tell you to knit the pattern all around the foot. So often you just knit the pattern on top and not on the sole, but with this sock they said to knit the pattern around, and I like that. And I think it looks quite funny with the heel like that. So I have to add a few more stripes, and then I can do the toe. Yeah, so these are 2 of the new rainforest colors, but I think the pattern would look nice in a lot of colors. So that's it for socks. At the moment, it's the only pair of socks I have on the needle. This is going to change very soon. But all my 3 new cast-ons are with sock yarn. So I'm going to show all the 3 new cast-ons now. I'll start with my mystery gnome. So we're knitting the 10th mystery gnome at the moment, and clue 1 was published last Friday, and that's the choose your gnome adventure. So she said that there were going to be at least 2 options for every part of the gnome, and the first clue gave us the pattern for the hat. And there were actually more than 2 options to choose from. And I decided to knit 2 gnomes at the same time, as long as it's a mystery. So I can knit the 2 different sizes, and I can knit more than one of the options. And the first gnome that I started knitting, I chose these yarns. So this is a hand dye sock yarn by Wolldackel. This is just a pure white. And this is the Opal Beauty, one of their colors. I think I used, this is not a full skein. I think I knit green socks that I donated probably during the sock madness out of this color. But I thought it looks quite funny, so I want to do the body in the green, a colorful hat, and this is the beard color. And I'm going to show the hat now. So if you are knitting the mystery and you haven't looked at the pattern yet, you can look away now, because now I'm showing my hat. So this is one of the options that were given for the hat, and I really like it. It's a very funny and a nice looking hat. I'm not showing the hat anymore. The other gnome I want to knit out of the Westfalen Wolle, which is a very rustic yarn that's undyed. I did another gnome before in that yarn, which turned out really big, and that's what I liked. And now I want to knit the big size of the gnome in this big yarn, but I haven't started that yet, so I'll show that next time we meet. By the way, this is going to be the next proper video I will do in 3 weeks' time, because next week, I'm here this week, but the next 2 weeks will be on holiday. So next Monday, I'm going to show you a special video that I'm going to film sometime this week, maybe even today. And then there will be 1 week without a video. And then I can show you everything that I knit and crocheted during the last 3 weeks. And I think within that time, all the clues will have come out for the gnome. So I will probably show you 2 finished gnomes. But no promises, maybe only 1 will be finished, we'll see. So that was that. Then I started a hat. And the pattern for the hat is from this book, Moon and Turtle. And it's a book that I bought when I was in Düsseldorf at the Yarn Festival. And it was written by Kiyomi and Sachiko Burjin. So they have Japanese first names, and I think they're at least part Japanese, and they are twins, and they're both knitwear designers. And for this book, they collaborated on all the projects in the book, which means that every project has at least 2 different options for doing this project. And this is something I really like. And I told my sister that we have to make at least some of the projects together. So we have different colors or options for our projects. So what I started doing is the Poka Poka hat, which can either look like this or it can look like that. And the idea is to have 2 halves of the hat. And of course you can do everything in one color and one yarn, but the idea is to use 2 different yarns or 2 different colors or both. So I picked this hand-dyed yarn by Wolldackel. This is their Anivaniva Cosma. Anivaniva is the word for rainbow, so all the colorful bits look like a rainbow, and then yellow is the main color. And I started knitting the hat. And I love the way, so in some of the stripes, all the rainbow colors sort of come together, and in some of the stripes, they are more mixed up, which is really interesting and fascinating. And I really enjoy knitting on it. I'm using the Chaogu mini circular needles that I actually have for knitting socks. And I put 2 of the cables together, and it's not quite as comfortable as with a normal circular needle, and for some reason it feels like it's less comfortable with the long cable than with the short cable. Don't really understand why that is, but if I don't knit on it too long, it's no problem. And so 1 half of the hat is going to be this yarn and this color, and the other half of the hat I want to knit out of yellow mohair silk yarn by Hansa Farm. So I'll have sort of the same color, but I'll have a completely different material, and that should make for a nice contrast. And then the 2 hats, you can push them inside each other, and then you fold it out. You fold up the brim, and then you can see both textures or both colors or whatever you're using. So that's a very fun project. And then the 3rd new cast on that I have, I started knitting another baby surprise jacket. I've knit at least 12 of those so far. I've lost count at some point, and I had planned to knit it out of that color, that soft pink mix color that was in the Rainforest series this year. But then I sold so many skeins of that color that I thought I'll use something else because this seems to be a very popular color. And I picked up a very old color. So this is the Lifestyle series. I don't remember whether it was from 1, 2, or 3 years ago. And I think this is a very beautiful color with purple and turquoise and some green and some gray. And I've always wanted to make something with the color, but never got round to doing it. And now I'm knitting a baby surprise jacket. And because I'm using the 6-ply yarn, it's going to be a bit bigger than it would be if I'd chosen the 4-ply yarn. So, but that's what I want, because the baby is due any time now. It's the granddaughter of a friend of mine, and I want the baby to be able to wear the jacket in winter. So I thought it'd be nice to have it a bit bigger. So you can't see a lot yet. It doesn't really look like a jacket yet, but that's fine. Yeah, so these are my 3 new cast-ons. Then on with some of the projects that you already know. So one of them is the Top Lechfall by Nicolor, and that's where I'm knitting this cotton linen mix. And this is this interesting maximum freedom pattern by Nicolas Susan, where you can just start with 6 stitches and then knit according to the pattern, and then with just one measurement you can get it to your size. Now the interesting thing is I've actually put the sleeve stitches on hold, and I finished knitting the first ball of yarn into the front and back, so I could try it on. I'm quite happy with the fit. The only thing that sort of surprised me is that I thought, I was probably wrong in thinking that, but I thought with the normal raglan increases, I would already have a bit of a sleeve. So I wanted to add just 1 or 2 centimeters and have a short sleeve. But I'm not quite sure whether I was mistaken in my idea or whether it's because there are no increases in the sleeve on the front. But when I try this on, it has a very straight edge. So I think if I wanted a short sleeve, I would probably have to knit more than just 1 or 2 centimeters. And I'm not quite sure what it would look like with just this tiny sleeve. So I'm actually thinking about just knitting 1 or 2 rounds and then casting off almost straight away, and then sort of have a sleeveless top. That's what I'm thinking at the moment, because then I could knit almost the whole second ball into the front and back, and it would get to be a nice length. It's fairly wide, but it's not too wide. Yeah, really enjoy the yarn. And another thing about not doing sleeves would be that I'll probably finish it quicker, because sleeves I have to decide how many rounds to knit, and so on and so forth. And if I just do the front and back, I can just keep knitting without thinking about it. Yeah, but really happy with the way it looks, and we'll see if I can finish it during the holidays and wash it there. I might even be able to wear it there. We'll see. So that's the only garment I knit on. As I told you before, I didn't knit on the other 2. So there's only 2 more projects that I can show you, because one of the blankets is finished. I now have only 1 blanket that I can show you, and that's the Talavera blanket. And I only crocheted 2 rounds, but those 2 rounds took a long time, so it's not like I didn't work on it. I just crocheted 2 rounds in this darker blue, and then the next couple of rounds will be white, and then that'll be the end of this of the pattern in this magazine, and then I'll have to wait for the next one to be published, and then I can go on crocheting. But I think it should be due any time now. I keep forgetting when the next magazine is published. So, but it's the September issue that I'm waiting for, so it should be there fairly soon. And I think by the time I've managed to crochet those 3 rounds, I think it's 3 rounds in white, I'm pretty sure the magazine will be there, and then I can continue working on this blanket. Yep, not quite sure yet whether I'm going to take this with me to holiday, because it's a fairly big and heavy project. I don't know yet. So, and the last project for today is the Viva Vittoria square that I'm crocheting for this happening where they where we donate 50 centimeter squares to raise awareness for the topic of violence against women. And I am working one of the squares by Shally Husband out of her book Granny Square Patchwork. It's the square Kaboom. And I crocheted the whole pattern except for the last round. So the last round is supposed to be just single crochets, American double crochet English, I think. And it's quite interesting that I started squaring off the circle here, But then for several rounds, I was sort of crocheting the same height stitches around and around. And then for the last 2 rounds, I think the stitches were smaller here and bigger towards the corner. So now this is pretty much a perfect square. And I did not do the last round because I'm not quite sure how big the square is now, because of the lots of different, or because of the texture of the stitches. It's not quite flat the way it is. So my plan is to wash and block it now and then see how big it is. If I can block it to exactly 50 centimeters, that'd be perfect. Then I can call it finished. If it's a bit too small, I can do another 1 or 2 rounds. But if it's just a tiny bit too small, then instead of doing a round of single crochets, I will do a round of double crochets, because that's a lot easier to crochet, even though the edge would probably be a bit tighter if I did 2 rounds of single crochet. I don't know. If it ends up too big, I might either try and block it a bit smaller or actually undo the last round. But I hope not, because the last round was still giving shape to the square. So I hope it's not too big, but I don't really think so. But I'm not sure, so that's why I want to wash it and block it, and then I can make a decision, and either I can show it to you as a finished object next week. Yeah, we'll probably be able to show it to you as a finished object next time I film, because that'll be in 3 weeks' time. And no matter if I have to do 1 or 2 rounds, it should be finished by then. So, finished object for next video. But I will probably have started the next square. I will most probably knit the next one and then crochet another one. I have several plans for crocheted squares because they're so easy to do. But I also want to knit at least one. But I'll tell you when we get there. Yeah, so that's everything I can show you today. As I said, there'll be a special video next week, then no video in 2 weeks' time, and then in 3 weeks' time, there'll be the next proper podcast episode. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!